I've been hearing this question of what's the best time to convert my Roth IRA and how much should I convert? And also, is it better to accelerate a Roth conversion when the market is down? If you've ever wondered questions like this, then stay tuned because I'm going to give you 3 steps to find out when a Roth conversion could make the most sense for you. And if I haven't met you yet, I'm Dave Zoller and I own a retirement planning firm with Tim and Luke and Sean. And because Streamline has been around for over 24 years, we've been able to help a lot of people retire. And if your current advisor is mainly focused just on investments and you're starting to realize that there's a lot more that goes into this retirement planning, like income planning and tax planning and withdrawal strategy, feel free to reach out by clicking on one of the links below. Or if you're certain you don't need or want to work with an advisor, check out the do-it-yourself retirement plan below. So on to the first step of seeing if a Roth conversion is right for you. Well, number 1, it's deciding if paying the least amount of tax over your lifetime is important to you. If that is important to you, then the thing to do is map out your estimated taxes or what they might be over the next 5 to 10 or possibly 20 years. And I'll share an easy way to do this using a tool coming up. If we can do that, then you'll have a much better chance at seeing if Roth conversions even make sense for you in the first place. And you might find out that they don't make sense for you, and that's going to be a good thing to find out because then you won't have to waste your time thinking about it anymore, and it'll save your time in the future. Now, here's an example of a tool that you can use to map out your tax brackets and even see if making a Roth conversion could make sense for you. It's the new retirement tool, and I'll include a link below to this exact tool. And this is what we also use in the DIY retirement plan course and kind of walk through how to create an income plan using this. But once you input your info, it's going to look something like this. You'll end up in this nice looking insights library where you can view your blueprint or your map, and then you'll see a bunch of other really useful tools or calculations down here. The 3 that we're going to be looking at today when talking about Roth conversions is this: could a Roth conversion increase savings legacy? And then this tax brackets one, and possibly even the account balances and withdrawal projections here. Now, please don't get hung up on the dollar amounts that we're going to be looking at here. The people that we work with at Streamline, they may have a lot, but that doesn't mean that this wouldn't be valuable for you. If you have 100 to 500 saved, I've seen that evaluating tax saving strategies and Roth conversions can have a significant impact on your plan. So here's an example. I'll just walk through this tax bracket liability projection. So you'll kind of get an idea of, for this couple, you're going to see from 2022 for the next 10 years or so, they're going to not be having big estimated taxes or what they might have to pay in taxes due to they won't have Social Security started yet, and they'll also not be working. So you'll kind of get an idea, as you can see on the side here, per year, what the estimates are. And then also down here, you'll get an idea of net taxable income by tax bracket. So again, you'll see that what tax brackets they may be in over here, the 10, 12, 22, and it's not until much later where they start to get above the 22% bracket up to the 24. So you don't have to remember any of this right now. We're going to get into how to evaluate Roth conversion. So let's go back to the Insights library and then just go to this: could a Roth conversion make sense here? Again, don't get hung up by the numbers. This is one example. Now here, it'll give you, whatever your numbers are, it'll give you a amount that you could possibly save, and then an amount you could possibly save in just taxes, which makes it very easy to understand. And then it'll give you some details down here on the current path that you're on, and then also what a projected optimized plan could look like. So look at this here. The current plan is blue, and like we were looking at before, you can see that their tax rate in their current plan might be 0 for quite a few years. And then once they hit 72 required minimum distributions, it jumps up and then it continues to go up. This is because a lot of people have their 401ks and IRAs that are accumulating and growing over time, and then all of a sudden they have to turn on. And if they didn't need to take out that money each year for income, then it's kind of paying unnecessary tax. At least it is in this person's eyes. So what if they looked at a scenario where they had this optimized plan where they start to pay, they actually, in this scenario, they pay a lot in the first year, and then they pay a little bit around the 10 or 11% effective tax rate for a few years and start to convert a lot more over. And how does that work out? Well, you can kind of see it reversed here. Effective tax rate goes down to 0 in this, we'll call this a fake example. So for this example, it actually makes sense to do something like this, but it's at least a good way to look at those tax rates, what they might be and what they currently are, and see where can you optimize this. One other thing people bring up a lot is this Irma comparison. So this will even detail the Medicare costs based on your gross income. So when income goes up, sometimes the Medicare costs will go up as well. So this will kind of give you an idea of both the current plan and the projected plan, what it could look like. So this can be a helpful tool, but I would still want to review with your tax professionals or your financial professionals just to make sure each year that you're doing the right thing. Because a lot of times people will make a plan and it'll look like what we saw, and then they'll have the blueprint, but things change, tax rates change. You know, there might be the tax sunset coming up in a few years. So it's good to make a plan, but again, to look at it every year to make sure that it's still the most optimized way to go. Now that leads into step 2, but very quickly, if you like these kinds of video examples on the screen here with retirement specific topics, if it's helpful for you, click the like button so that I know that you want more videos like this. So step 2 is, what's the right amount to convert? We did just find out that yes, it makes sense to possibly do this Roth conversion based on estimated tax rates and knowing that we desire to not pay any more tax than we absolutely have to. But now we just got to figure out what's the right amount. Now, those tools that we were looking at, the new retirement tool, can help you figure out the right amount. But a lot of times people will look at the tax brackets, you know, the 10, 12, and then 22 and 24% brackets. Where are they now? And then where are they estimated to be in the future? The one that we were looking at, and maybe I'll go back to it just quickly, we can see that tax rates are going to be around, they're able to convert up to the, convert enough each year to be around 10, 11, or maybe 12%, because in retirement, their effective tax rate then is gonna be around 16, 17, and then increasing. So one way to do it is through these calculators. Another way that a lot of people will choose is by really just figuring out what they're comfortable with. And they usually just plug in a few numbers to see what the results are. Again, they know the effective tax rates, but they see what they're comfortable with. In that past example, the first year they were converting a lot, and they were actually going up to the highest tax bracket possible. A lot of people might not be comfortable doing that in 1 year, even if it makes the most financial sense. And in that case, it makes sense because for them, the further out we have until we have to start taking withdrawals out of a Roth IRA, you know, the longer time horizon we have, the better it might look as long as the accounts are growing. So for that case, it made sense, but it's really up to the person who's going to be paying the taxes to come up with a few guesses and then seeing what could make the most sense for them. And as always, having the tax person, having the financial person review and look at it together before making decisions, that's a great way to go. Even if you're using a calculator like this, it helps to talk to a human sometimes. Now, the final step is an important one, and that is step 3, and it's, what time of year should I convert? And you might be thinking, well, what does that matter? The goal is to pay a certain amount of tax each year, so you're just going to be paying it at some point throughout the year. Now, we've seen at the tax firm that a lot of people actually wait till the end of the year to do Roth conversions. The alternative, though, is wait until, if there's a point throughout the year where the account values have dropped. That doesn't happen every year, but sometimes it does. Now, why would that make a difference? Is there any advantage to doing this? I actually think that there is, and I'll show you why. If the goal is to convert $100,000 to Roth each year and pay the tax on it that year, and let's say that the account value actually dropped by 20%, well, you're still going to convert $100,000 from IRA or 401k to Roth and pay tax on it. But here's the trick. Rather than thinking about it as dollars converted, what if you thought about it in the number of shares that you're able to convert? Here's the example. So you've got 1,000 shares, and let's pretend they're each worth $100. So that's $100,000. And then we've got a drop of 20%. So you've got 1,000 shares still, and now they're $80 each. So you've got $80,000. And if the goal of the tax plan is already established, and that goal is to pay tax on 100K, for the same amount of tax that you were expected to pay, you can get an extra 250 shares from your traditional IRA or 401K into the Roth. So here's a quick explanation. 250 shares times $80 current share price, and that's 20,000. So again, these two back up to 100K, what you expected, but what you actually did was get another 250 into the Roth IRA. And I hope that makes sense for you, because if you believe that capital markets continue to appreciate over time and that they'll get back to their previous all-time highs, this could be a good time to do a Roth conversion when things are down, because you get that extra 250 shares in and you pay the same amount of tax that you would have just a few months ago. And if the plan is not to use the Roth IRA for a number of years, that extra 250 shares that's in there, hopefully is appreciating over that 5, 10, or 20-year period and growing even more. Where that 250 shares, if you kept it in the IRA, traditional IRA, that would have been hopefully growing as well, but then you'd end up paying tax on that, or somebody would be paying tax on that at some point in the future. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, I enjoy a lot of things, but I don't love this nerdy financial stuff, at least I don't love doing it by myself. Well, first off, don't feel bad. A lot of people feel that way. I know that a few doctors who are clients, they'll mention the phrase of, I do what I do best, but I'll hire for the rest, or I'll pay for the rest, something like that. And they know they've got certain skills and abilities, and now that they're retired, they've got certain passions or things that bring them more joy than managing this themselves. And by the way, we only work with people where we can add more value than what the actual cost of paying for our services are. But if that sounds like you, feel free to reach out through our website. Just to recap here, these are the steps. Figure out if a Roth conversion makes sense by mapping out estimated tax brackets now and then in the future, and then running a few scenarios, maybe using that tool that I showed you in the description to see how and if it makes sense, and then look for opportune times throughout the year to convert. If you found this helpful, I hope you did. Please like and subscribe to this channel, and then I'll see you in the next video. Take care.